let's move on to passage 2. Number 11. Which of the following assumptions would be most critical for a reader to accept in order to agree fully with the author's claims in the passage? Now, I hope if you were doing this on your own that you bounced and came back to it. Number 11 is a super, super hard question. A, shanty towns in the Amazon need to be relocated if the forest is to be saved. That wasn't mentioned. B, learning to make consistently good guitars requires access to the best materials available. Let's see. I don't think that's a main idea of this thing, but let's keep going. C, small-scale rural producers in the Amazon can help preserve the forest by being innovative. Now, this whole thing is about being innovative, so C looks really good. Let's look at D. Consumers outside the Amazon can do little to help prevent deforestation. That really doesn't help at all. So it's got to be C. That has the most to do with the main idea. And remember, I told you the main idea will help you. Number 12, in the context of the passage, the statement, quote, all the guitars are made from certified wood, from lines 34 to 35, most nearly suggests that Gomez's workshop, F, uses environmentally sustainable woods in its guitars. Now, that's almost a direct restatement of 34 to 35, so I'm going to leave that in as a great possibility. G, isn't doing enough to stop unnecessary deforestation, doesn't say that. H, has little chance of pleasing both musicians and environmentalists, doesn't say that. J, uses only traditional woods in making its guitars, no. So stick as close to the words as you can and you'll never go wrong. 13, it can most reasonably be inferred from the passage that regarding OELA, the author feels, now if you aren't good with feelings, you can bounce on this one. Is he A, skeptical of it? No, he kind of likes it. Dismayed, which means shocked by the low productivity? He never says that. C, supportive of the goals. Yeah, that sounds right. D, confident that it could be duplicated in other places. Now, I would always look at the last paragraph to see what he's thinking about in terms of other places. I don't see that. It says sometimes. So I'm going to go with C. That's a very good, beige, easy to prove quote. And remember, those answers that are easy to prove are almost always right. Number 14, the main purpose of the second paragraph. Now be careful here. This second paragraph, a lot of people think it's F, draws attention to the Amazon's tremendous population growth. That's a very tempting answer, but that doesn't cover the whole thing. G does, however, explain the necessity for ventures such as Gomez's. So G is better because it covers the whole paragraph. And remember, the main purpose is the topic sentence, but it's got to, sometimes it has to cover the entire paragraph, and F is just a subpoint, so that's why it's G. Number 15, the main function of the fifth paragraph. That's a little bit different than the main purpose. It's what does it do? And if you look at D, it says it shows that experiments led to the discovery of good substitutes for rare woods, and that is really, really a good answer. That's exactly what this paragraph kind of goes to. Okay, you could eliminate A, demonstrates the woodworking skills. B, explores the limitations of science, and C, outlines the scientific reasons. That's not the main idea, okay? Let's look at number 16. This may be a bounce question as well. The passage notes all the following as problems that the fledgling Amazon guitar industry has experienced, except. Now, it is an except question, but it's not a list question about one paragraph. It's a list question about the entire passage. So unless you're a really good reader, you may not know that it's H, the woods usable for guitars have become extinct. That's the only one that it doesn't mention. It does say the glue doesn't hold. It does say the wood may crack. And it does say that some of the buyers are resistant. So that's in lines 54 through 68. Number 17, the passage indicates that as a group, the OELA students may impact the survival of the rainforest because most of them, now this is another kind of tricky one, you have to be careful. A, care deeply enough about music to spend their lives making instruments. That never happened. B, will return to their homes and spread their environmental knowledge. That could work. C, are willing to endure personal hardships in order to use their new skills. Doesn't say anything like that. D, will have political careers. Now, that's tempting, but it doesn't say will. It says some will. Some may. So you want to be really careful with anything that's conclusive. B wins. 18. In the passage, Gomez indicates that the wood cut in the Amazon rainforest each year, approximately how much wood is wasted. Okay, this is kind of easy if you track down your numbers. In line 25, it tells you, this is kind of a math problem. There are 30 million cubic meters of wood, 20 million is wasted, so that's a 2/3 ratio. So it's J. Number 19, the passage states that all of the following are woods traditionally used for making stringed instruments except. Now here's another list question. It's super duper easy. If you starred the list, you know the answer is A. And number 20, according to the passage, when an OELE student is adopted, he or she receives what? And if you circled it in line 65, you would read it and see that they get tuition. Okay, circling is a great help. Now let's move on to passage 3. Passage 3 is all about this academic philosopher. Number 21. The passage is best described as being told from the point of view of a philosopher who is A, discussing metaphysical questions that have troubled philosophers since the time of Descartes. Nope, that happens once, he mentions it, but that's not the whole story. B, presenting in chronological order the key events in his 30-year professional career. Okay, it's not all about his professional career. It's definitely in chronological order, tells us through his life, but not this professional career is just the end, not his whole life, so it can't be B. C, reflecting on his own early developing interest in philosophy and in scholarship generally. Bingo! That looks great. D, advising professional educators on how to get more students to study philosophy. I don't know where they got that from. The answer is C. Number 22, be careful. Based on the passage, which of the following most likely was the first to engage the author's passionate interest? F is drumming. Okay, a lot of people say, oh, I know, it was chemistry. Well, not if you read it carefully, because I circled chemistry, butterflies, and lizards, and I read this sentence, the last one in the first column. I had had a similar passion for chemistry when I was 10. Okay, that was early. And for butterflies and lizards before that. So the answer is J, butterflies. Okay, 23. Hope you didn't get fooled on that one. The main purpose of the last paragraph. Look at that again. Relook at that first line and see it's all about the teacher, Mr. Marsh. A, reveal the enduring impact of Mr. Marsh's lessons on the author. Nice, vague, and good. Let's leave it in. B, acknowledge that the author came to doubt some of Mr. Marsh's teachings. Didn't doubt him. C, describe a typical class. Nowhere in there. And D, present a biographical sketch. We already talked about a sketch. You have to know more about a guy other than the fact that his eyebrows move up and down and he's serious and he's Christian. To really sketch someone, you need a lot more. The answer is going to be A. That's the main idea. 24, the passage indicates that the man in the book cover photograph. Okay, go to the second paragraph where hopefully you circled all that stuff. You see the 18 circled? I do. I know the answer is J. Number 25. The author mentions Melody Maker, the top 20 in articles about musicians, primarily to suggest what? Okay, his early interest in music has remained with him to the present. Oh, doesn't say that. Time spent playing music should instead have been spent reading. Doesn't say that. C. His fascination with pop music and musicians gave focus to his life for a time. Very easy to prove. We like easy to prove. D. His commitment to study enabled him to perfect his drumming technique. Mrs. Art says, that looks good, but get nervous about that perfect. If you go back to that paragraph, it doesn't say that. It says he wanted to improve. That's kind of a tricky question, but the answer is C. Number 26. This is definitely a bounce question because the words are so difficult for most people. In the third paragraph, the author most nearly characterizes the energy he refers to. F, potent, which means powerful, yet difficult to channel in a constructive way. That actually is the answer. It's perfect. But unless you know constructive and potent, you're probably lost and would want to guess. G, powerful and typically leading to destructive results. He doesn't say typically. He says sometimes. H, delicate and inevitably wasted in trivial undertakings, never says that. And J, gentle yet capable of uniting people with different interests. That's not in there at all. 27. Viewed in the context of the passage, the statement in lines 55 to 56 is most likely intended to suggest what? So 55 through 56 talks about how to harness passions to formal education remains a great and unresolved problem. And I've told you before, Great and unresolved problems are very common on the ACT. C says something very similar. Schools need to keep searching for ways to tap into students' deeply held interests, and that's very provable. That is our answer. 28. The author calls pen and paper rudimentary tools as part of his argument that F, the use of computers has made the pen and paper obsolete, that they're outdated. And if you go back and look at line 80, it doesn't say that at all. G, students should become skilled with pen and paper before moving on, doesn't say that. H, while writing with pen and paper can be pleasant, it can be painful, definitely doesn't say that. So it's got to be J. Although seemingly simple, pen and paper allow people to perform great feats. Remember what I told you. If I'm walking through this too fast and you need to replay it, replay it. 29. In the context of the passage, 17 to 23 are best described as presenting images of. Now, remember, unless all three are true, it's not true. Let's go back and look at 17 to 23. You need to read it and remember that grim, sad scene. A, gloom, yes, we can prove that. Tension, we can prove that. And fascination. A looks good. Anger, maybe he's anger. Maybe he's bitter, but is he betrayed? No, so it's definitely not B. Stillness could work. Peacefulness, but he's not relaxing there. He's all worked up about something. Frustration, surprise, and satisfaction, you can't prove any of those. So go with A and you'll be right. And then number 30, it's a list question. Which of the following does not reasonably describe the transition the author presents in lines 80 to 84? So it does some rephrasing of this, but basically 80 to 84 says that you can turn something invisible into something concrete, take it from the interior into the exterior, take it into something precious and permanent. So if we start at the bottom with J, you can go private to public, you can go invisible to visible, fleeting to permanent, but you don't go precious to commonplace. You go commonplace, so it's got to be F that doesn't work. All right, great job on that one. Let's go on to the science one. Remember, science is never solved. 31 happens to be the first question, and it happens to be a little of a bounce question unless you got the main idea. 31 says one of the main ideas established by the passage. Now, it's not A, that they've nearly exhausted their money. But B says significant gaps still remain in our understanding of the life cycle, and that's true. We don't know about exactly how they were born or where or whatever. We're very confused. So B looks like a good answer. C is just plain out wrong. They live their entire lives in the Sargasso Sea. And D is too minor a point. So it's got to be B. 32. Learning about which of the following had the largest impact on scientists' current understanding of where the eels breed. And if you had circled Schmidt and you had learned about his discovery of eel larvae in H, you would know that that is the answer. And it's always going to be somewhere up towards the front of the passage. Okay? Now, 33, the main purpose of the fourth paragraph is to describe what? So you go down to that fourth paragraph. It's all about the river stage. So it's got to be D, the river stage. It's not about the Mississippi River system. It's about the river stage of eels. 34 is another pretty easy one. The passage states that, and it means you know what's right in there, that the Sargasso Sea is set off from the rest of the Atlantic Ocean by, and if you look back at your little list, your little circled words, you will see it is strong currents. Okay? You would probably circle the word Atlantic in line 7 and line 12, so you want to check both spots. 25. The passage notes that the Sargasso Sea includes, that's in line 13 and 14, B, the Bermuda Triangle. Number 36, as it is used in line 13, the word popular most nearly means. Now what you want to do here is you want to plug in all these options into line 13, and if you do, you see that it is popular legend. Well liked, we can't prove. Commonly known, we can prove. Scientifically accepted, we can't prove. Most admired would be hard to prove. So commonly known is the safest bet. Remember, be safe, don't be sorry. Number 37, as it is used in line 45, the word read means what? So go back. Remember, play it safe. Scientists determine an eel's age using a microscope to read the growth rings. Learn from print. No, we don't know that they're printed. Observe. We could prove that. Think about. It's a little more than think about. Predict. Too strong. This should be a recurring theme for you. Don't go too strong. If you've missed everything you've missed because you've picked one that's too strong, consider yourself lucky. This is practice. Now you can pinch yourself and say, stop doing that, self. 38. The passage indicates that female eels' pupils expand and turn blue. If you did your circling, you will see it's in line 61, and bingo, it's in F. They must adapt to sea in an environment with much less light than they're used to. Number 39, the passage most strongly emphasizes that the process of osmosis is necessary for the eel's transition from. Okay, if you looked and you circled osmosis, you would see they're going deeper. Now, it's a little bit of a leap to say shallower to deeper water, but that's what happens, and that is the answer. It's A, and that's there. Number 40, according to the passage, which of the following characteristics of eel larvae found by Schmidt provided the best evidence that they were hatched in the Sargasso Sea? So, if you had circled eel larvae everywhere, you would see that in line 80, they were small. And which of these means small? F, size. So hopefully I've convinced you. If you circle, you will do great. You need to circle, 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 circle.